Sasha Martinengo.
Storming down the pit lane.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time. On balls.co.za.
All right, it's great to have Guy Kilfoil in the studio with us this afternoon. He's the General Manager, Group Communications and Public Affairs for BMW South Africa. Does that include Mini?
It does, Sasha,
Yeah.
and it's good to be on the show. Nice to see you again.
It's great to see a nice tie there, Guy.
Thanks. You know, it's
Spiffy.
corporate attire. You've
Yeah.
got to look the part.
No, well, listen, and you do. I mark my words. I've got a feeling Guy Kilfoil will be the CEO of BMW soon. How's your German?
I can understand lots, but don't ask me to speak any.
Okay, well, there we go, because I can understand nothing. So if you had to... Well, and I couldn't speak, so we wouldn't know each other anyway. Sorry, just Darren's popped in.
You say CEO of BMW.
Soon.
Soon to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soon.
That was last night.
From Sasha's lips to God's ears,
Yeah.
please.
It's coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying, last night we had Honor Your Dance Golf Day,
Yes.
and there was someone from the Menlyn BMW
Oh,
who was desperately trying to get us into one of those cars.
well,
Good salesperson, very good salesperson.
very nice.
Well, you know, the best has to drive the best at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Well,
wow.
Kurt Darren is driving. I think he's driving the 9 Series, which hasn't come out yet.
Yes, no, that's Kurt.
That's
He's
Kurt.
got a sick X6.
He's at every one of them, from the 1 all the way to
He's
the
got
6.
an X6. I saw him driving in
Yeah.
the Kruger Park in an
He doesn't know how to
X6.
drive it properly, but he drives one.
Well, he doesn't know how to play golf either.
Yeah, that's true.
Although, thankfully, he can sing, I believe.
A little, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as there's backing tracks.
So I believe. Okay, sorry. Can you go away now? Your show's at 2. Your show's at 2. Bye. Sorry, Guy. You know, it's a bit chaotic over here.
Not at all.
There we go. So BMW, I must say, unashamedly, I'm a massive BMW fan. And Guy was just telling me he's driving the brand new M5, which to me is together with the M3, I think 2 of the most special and brilliant cars ever made out of any manufacturer. If anybody had to say to me, ideal car, M5.
Yeah, I think it's because, you know, with BMW M, we've got this real motorsport heritage that's made its way onto the road. You know, not many people know, but BMW M is 40 years old this year.
Oh, really?
And the M3 was 25 years old about 2 years ago. So it's got this great motorsport heritage, and you know, it was basically BMW's motorsport division that was incorporated into the company to start producing road cars, or high performance road cars for the road. And in fact, the first M3 wasn't really a production car. It was a homologation special so that they could go racing in world touring cars.
Amazing.
And that kind of heritage has continued through all of our M cars. And I think the new M5 is a great example of it. You know, it's using brilliant motorsport related technology, and then it's taking things from normal engineering perspectives. You know, obviously it's the first turbocharged M5, first turbocharged M sedan car, to keep emissions down, but it's lost none of that driver appeal, none of that raw.
And it doesn't have lag or anything like that.
It's unbelievable. Here at Joburg altitude, 1600 meters, you'd think there is a bit of lag, but it's instantaneous. It's got instantaneous throttle response, which from a turbo car is almost unheard of.
It's an incredible machine. Let's talk a little. The M part of BMW, is that wholly owned? Was it started within BMW?
Yeah, so I mean, we have two. M is a subsidiary of BMW,
Okay.
completely wholly owned, and it was started in '73.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Lutz, the famous Chrysler executive, was actually the head of M
Oh,
when it was
okay.
first incorporated. But M is not just M3s, M5s,
Yeah.
M6s, 1M coupes. M also does all of our individual products, so BMW Individual, where you get to personalize your car with special paint and special leather and special rims. They do BMW Security, all our high security vehicles. They do our M Sports packages.
All right.
Driver training falls under BMW M, and we're bringing out now a new range of BMW M Performance automobiles. You've got M on the one side, an
Yeah.
M3 for example. You've got a normal 3 Series on the other side, and in between that we've got customers that say, well, I want extra performance, I want to know that it's been fettled and tuned by BMW M, but I don't want to spend 800,000 Rand for an M3. So we're coming
Okay.
out with a range of M performance cars.
Oh, that's
and-
brilliant.
And the first one of those is coming now in at the end of August, the BMW M135i, which will be our
Well, that-
first one of those cars.
Well, I mean, that car on its own is a pocket rocket, that's for sure.
Yeah, fantastic car.
Okay, so you're going to get a little bit tuned up. Motorsport, I must say, I was so disappointed when when BMW pulled out of Formula One, because it's just such a great name, and it has also got a good history. But one could understand that. But I'm so delighted now to see them back in DTM, in German touring cars. And I mean, listen, the car looks magnificent.
Yeah, I think DTM has always been a spiritual home for us. In fact,
Yeah.
saloon car racing has always been a spiritual home for us. You know, you go back to the 60s, you look at the old 3-liter CSL, one of the winningest cars in saloon car racing of all time.
The Batmobile.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
You know,
Your FD owns one, doesn't he?
our ex-FD.
Has he gone?
He's gone off to China to be FD in China now.
Uli.
So Uli Zana is FD in China.
Okay.
It's the biggest market in the world for BMW, so
Wow.
a massive promotion. for
Well
him.
done, Uli. Hope you leave your cars here. I'll look after
And
them.
yes, his cars are still here.
Okay.
But yeah, the Batmobile was the winningest saloon car of all time. And
Yeah.
then we moved into the E30 M3 days, the late 80s, early 90s. And that car won more than 60 championships.
It's incredible.
Around the world in a very short space of time, 6 years. That's 10 championships a year in 6 years, you know.
Jeez.
And that car itself was running in the DTM at one stage, and then we pulled out of DTM. There were some issues with the rules that we weren't happy with, and we were out of DTM for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
And now back in DTM and doing okay. I think it's hard to come into a series in your first year where your two main competitors have been running for the last 15 years and expect to win immediately. Yet we've won
Yeah.
already, and we had second and third at the Norris Ring last week. Although I do think that
I think Martin Tomczyk just fell asleep.
I think Tomczyk did fall asleep on the last corner because he did exactly the same thing to Spengler the corner before, Jamie
Exactly,
Green.
yeah.
So it was disappointing to see, but nonetheless a good result. And of course we're in World Superbikes now as well.
Yes.
And we had a fantastic result at the weekend as
With,
well.
Marco Melandri.
Marco Melandri winning a race there. And I guess we've had some bad luck there as well. You know, earlier in the year we had a 1-2 with Melandri and Haslam in the first race, and then in the second race we were leading first and second again, and some crazy guy in a Kawasaki decided that he could overtake both of them on the second last corner and crashed into both of them, and neither of them finished. So
But I'm, you know, it's amazing. I'm glad you brought up the superbike thing, because BMW, in terms of their motorcycles, have always been known as these sort of touring bikes, and you know, the superbike label has never really been on BMW. But now, with all of this championship being so alive, and with such talented drivers, all of a sudden people are looking and going, "Whoa, hold on a second! You know, I'm up there with the Aprilias and Ducatis and the Hondas and the Kawasaki's of the world."
yeah, you know, sports bikes were never really our forte. We always did, as you said, touring bikes or adventure bikes. So the GS
Adventure bikes, that's the
is
word.
really our best-selling motorcycle, and we've got a huge history in the Dakar Rally. From the 60s, 70s and 80s, where we really won a lot of Dakar rallies on GS motorcycles. We don't really compete in the Dakar anymore. But a few years ago we started in sports bikes. We had an HP, a boxer engined HP sports bike, and then the S1000 RR was our first 4-cylinder inline superbike, real superbike.
Okay.
And it really changed the way people looked at superbikes. You know, it only weighed 187 kilos with no rider, and made 195 or 193 horsepower. So a horsepower for every kilogram that you have is a hell of a lot of horsepower at the end of the day. You know, you think an M3 has horsepower for every 4.5 kilograms of car.
That's
that
a very
gives you an
potent bike.
idea of how much power you have. And for the last 3 years in a row, it's been named the world's best superbike. So I think we've still got a bit of catching up to do on the racetrack internationally, but certainly whenever you see stock racing, so even World Superbike Stock Series, BMW is the clear leader. There are normally 4 or 5 bikes in the top 6. Ayrton Badavini, who's in World Superbikes this year, ran away with that championship last year, won every race except one.
Wow.
And here on the local level, you know, Greg Gildenhuys is for
Yes.
the second year in a row champion on a S1000 1000 RR, and will, I think, is actually leading the championship now after the last races, or close to leading the championship
Okay,
for
so
the
he's up
third
there
time in
again.
a row. Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, listen, we're talking to Guy Kilfoil from BMW, so stick around. It's Gearz Ball's in-studio guest this afternoon is Guy Kilfoil. the General Manager, Group Communications and Public Affairs of BMW South Africa. Got a couple of nice tweets that have come through. Tune, that's from Craig White, but he's a DJ. That's okay. Won't lie. This one's from Matt Black ZA. He says, Sasha and Guy Kilfoil chatting about BMW and CSL Batmobile making me melt in petrol headness. I like that. And Birdman has said, he says, now you have 300 people who know you're a BMW fan. He's a funny guy. Guy, we were talking a little bit about off air, and incredible the product range and product lines, how it's developed over a very short period of time. I mean, we're talking in the last sort of 14 years, 13 years. Incredible.
Yeah, I think it's all been triggered by the fact that the premium car market's changed considerably. You know, I think the growth that we see in the premium car market's not in the traditional segments anymore, which is really the mid-size segment, 3 Series, 5 Series. It's more right at the top end, 7 Series and upwards, and at the bottom end, so 1 Series and downwards. And if you go back to 99, BMW actually only sold 4 different cars. We sold a 3 Series, a 5 Series, a 7 Series, and a Z3. That was it.
It's incredible.
We didn't have anything else in our product range.
As early as 1999.
Yeah, and of course we'd had the 6 Series before that in the 80s,
Yes.
and when that
And
fell
the
away,
850.
and the 8 Series, of course. But circa at 1999, 4 cars was our product range, and then we introduced the X5, which was the very first of its kind, and we had fantastic success for the X5. It's one of the only products, along with Mini, that we've seen that's had this unbelievable growth curve. You know, normally you've got massive sales in your first couple of years, it stabilizes and it drops off. Well, X5 grew to a point and it just stayed flat.
Incredible.
And our plant in Spartanburg in the USA that produces X3, X5, X6, it runs at full capacity 24/7, 365
That's
days
incredible.
a year. And there were other firsts as well. You know, the 1 Series, it followed the A3, but 1 Series coupe and convertible, nobody else in the premium segment has a similar offering. 5 Series Gran Turismo, then we had X3, which was the first of its kind, then we had X6, which was the first of its kind, then we had X1, which was the first of its kind, and you know, we introduced Mini in 2000, and Mini's had a number of firsts as well. So we've really tried to create customer segments in certain respects, find places where customers are looking for premium cars, and then develop a bespoke niche product for that market. And I think we've been quite successful with that. And I think the future is interesting as well, because you know, we're seeing more and more growth at the top end and more growth at the bottom end. So you're going to see more small BMWs coming through, and you're going to see more really big BMWs coming through. So just last week we launched the 6 Series Grand Coupe.
Saw it. Beautiful.
It's an absolutely beautiful car. It's
What a stunning car.
fantastic car to drive. And it's a real looker. You know, it's a 4-door coupe. We see it as competing with an Aston Martin Rapide and a Porsche Panamera, and you know, we might lose out slightly to the Aston Martin in terms of looks, but I promise you it's only just slightly.
Well, you won't lose out on looks to the Porsche Panamera.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But then again, a brick won't lose out to a Porsche Panamera.
It's a great car.
No, it's a great car, but it just doesn't look very, very nice.
So
Now they've been bought today, 5.6 billion euro. They've been
Porsche.
bought by VW have eventually done the deal.
Yeah, it's I think they've just put ink on paper. You know,
Been there for a while.
The deal was always what it was.
But amazingly, let's talk about BMW and BMW's ownership. I mean, BMW is still sort of privately owned, isn't it?
It is
100%
100% privately owned. We're an independent company. The Quant family still owns the majority shareholding in BMW.
And I mean, listen, besides the brands that you've got, BMW, Mini, you've got some other premium brands as well.
Rolls-Royce, and we have Husqvarna motorcycles as well. So
okay, jeez.
yeah, so it's a great product lineup, and you know, Rolls-Royce isn't sold under our BMW South Africa umbrella in South Africa, but certainly a flagship product of ours.
Incredible machines.
Amazing car.
Guy, when it comes to, you know, I'm a big fan, as I say, I'm a huge fan of BMWs. And, you know, the 3 Series is without a doubt, most probably in its segment, the most popular car, I think, in South Africa. It's a premium sedan and is just extraordinarily brilliant. The 5 Series, you now competing with your German counterparts, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and then your 7 Series. You also competing with those kind of brands. The Mercedes, the S Class versus the BMW 7 Series class. And I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm going to ask you. But for years, ever since I've known it, the BMW is just as good, if not even better than the S Class. Yet there seems to be a whole stigma going, the 7 Series, no, don't go near it. Why is that?
Well, I think I'm going to go back to the beginning of your statements talking about 3 Series. Yes, we compete against A4 and C Class. It depends completely on who has the newest car at the time. Between Mercedes and BMW, who's the segment leader. And that you can understand. The customer always wants the newest product. Luckily for us, our 3 Series built up the road in Roslyn and exported to the world is the newest on the market at the moment. And it's not only the newest, it's moved the benchmark several steps forward in terms of technology, styling, performance, dynamics, comfort, economy, and all of those things. 5 Series has always been a very strong competitor against E-Class and A6. And with 7 Series, we've had very good sales success with 7 Series.
Yeah.
Current sales series, 7 Series is the best-selling 7 Series of all time.
Okay.
But there is a perception, I think, amongst consumers that the S Class is more comfortable, more luxurious, and that the 7 Series is more dynamic and more of a driver's car.
Right.
They would be right about it being more of a driver's car, for sure. 7 Series is certainly the sort of car that you can get a lot of driving enjoyment out of. But it's now, in the new generation, fully as refined as a 7 Series, and probably a little bit more adaptable in terms of how you can set it up for your own driving characteristics. You can have it in Eco Pro mode and float along really comfortably using very little fuel, or you can put it into Sport Plus mode and drive it like a really fast sedan car. And I don't think our other competitors have the same adjustability of characteristic in their cars.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you do sometimes have to go to university to understand all of the gadgets in not only your vehicles, but in most premium vehicles like that. Because there is so much, and I think progress that is made from generation to generation of vehicle, that a lot of people just sit there and they don't even really understand what the car is actually capable of doing.
100% correct. I think as cars develop, we're developing a whole new field of engineering along with it, So we have mechanical engineering and we had electrical engineering, and now between these two in the car business, you have mechatronic engineering, where we engineering bits and pieces to work with electronics to make the best possible technological solution for the customer. And I'll use a very small example and quite an old example. So we launched the current M3 in 2007, 5 years ago, and that car's engine onboard computer makes 17 million calculations a second, taking into account air density, throttle position, the octane of the fuel, and all sorts of things.
17 million.
Just to make sure the engine is running at its optimum performance level. And you look at technology that we don't have yet in cars, but that's coming. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners saw the last Mission Impossible movie, The Ghost Protocol, where Tom Cruise was playing around in the i8 on the windscreen. Well, that's going to be a reality. We have head-up display in cars at the moment. It's just a very small display that gives you some critical information. But the future of head-up display is augmented reality. So instead of showing you an arrow that you've got to turn at the second right, it's literally going to paint the road in front of you and show you a green line on the road where you have to turn to follow your navigation. And that's just a tiny example of what's coming.
It's incredible where we are going in automotive technology. The one thing that BMW is also very renowned for, Guy, are the engines. Year by year, every year, BMW is always up there winning this engine, that engine. Now with Europe and also within South Africa with CO2 emissions and carbon footprints and that kind of stuff, BMW seems to be extracting the most out of whether it be petrol or diesel engines with incredible economy.
Yeah, we had to ask ourselves an interesting question in the late 90s, and being a performance driven company, performance and fuel consumption are usually diametrically opposed things, And we had to ask ourselves, how does a company like us, focused on performance and dynamics, continue to survive in a world where people are more and more conscious about the environment and about fuel consumption and all of those things? And we developed Efficient Dynamics, which was this optimization technologies for all of our cars, and we reduced our CO2 emissions by about 30% since 1998.
Sure.
And we'll reduce it by another 20% by 2020. The amazing thing is that BMW is now at a stage where in Germany it's one of the lowest CO2 emitters as a fleet, as low as any of our competitors. Yet we have a 10 kilowatt at least average power difference, a higher power difference to any of our competitors at the same time. So we've managed to downsize engines, lower fuel consumption, and extract more performance at the same time. Because ultimately, for us, a BMW still has to be a BMW. It still has to be about driving pleasure. It still has to be about performance.
Sure, it's incredible. A couple of tweets that have come through here from Danger Boy 19. I work in Rosslyn, close to the BMW plant, for a carrier company, and the plant is the cleanest in the world.
I would say it's amongst the cleanest in the world, because we have a very standardized process across all BMW plants.
Sure.
And we run a very strict cleanliness protocol. We believe waste of any kind is unwanted. So whether it's wasted time moving from one workstation to another, or a box lying around that shouldn't be lying around, those things are all taken out of the production line, and certainly we have a very, very, very clean plant. Whenever we have journalists there, they say, I can't believe this is a production facility.
But also the great thing about it is, I mean, your export side is really, really big, because cars are made here in Pretoria, Rosslyn, and exported all over the world.
Yeah, I think what we have to understand, though, is that the car industry in South Africa, although it's a big part of the economy, 7% of GDP, is still a very, very small proportion of the world's car production.
Yeah.
So our plant, running at sort of 50,000 units a year, is still a very small plant globally. And we're now moving later this year into a 3-shift model. We're basically going to double our production.
Amazing
from
news.
50,000 to almost 100,000. We're going to employ around 800 new people. Our suppliers will probably triple that in terms of their employment number. And our exports will go from around 35,000 exports a year to nearly 80,000 a year. And that's now a big news story.
I think that is a huge news story. I mean, never mind just for the South African economy, but also for what you're producing and manufacturing here, just shows that the rest of the world is saying, you know what, it's made in South Africa, and it's damn good.
Yeah, I mean, a BMW is a BMW, whether it's made in the USA, in Germany, South Africa, or in China. And we have to meet a certain quality standard, and Plant Rosslyn meets that quality standard.
Terrific.
Over and over and over again.
Amazing. Here's another one. Biggest fan of the X6. Love that car. It's from Just Plain LM. I got to tell you, I love that car as well. The only thing is, Guy, if I want to take out the damn middle console in the back, can I do that and put another seat in?
Yeah, sure. We offer it now as an option.
As an
Customers.
option.
So you can get an
Extra
X6.
million rand, and you can.
No, it's not expensive at all.
Because that's my only fault with the X6.
Yeah,
I just love the look of it, and then you go, but if there's 5 of you, you bug it.
we had I think we had a lot of feedback from customers.
Yeah.
And we really listened to them. And what I think what customers don't really understand is that updates happen to cars twice a year without you ever knowing about it. Things
Yes.
change, things get modified, things get tweaked to make them better. And about a year ago, we started to offer X6 with a 5-seat option in the back, so you can get rid of the 2 bucket seats in the back and have a bench, so that you've got seating for 5.
Okay, Guy, we're going to talk about the I in BMW I in a couple of seconds, but you always got to get somebody who's like a couple of interesting ones here. Where was the first one? Best car I've ever driven, 2004 M3 convertible. I miss it like you can't believe. Then Patufra, who, don't worry, he's a very cool person, because I still owe him a shirt, which I haven't sent to him. Anyway, but he says, why do BMW add indicators if the drivers don't use them?
I mean,
I know.
we could use any driver as an example there. I mean, unfortunately,
I think it's just jealousy.
we certainly don't approve of the way people drive our cars, or
Yeah.
how anybody drives any car badly. But I think you can look at any brand out there at any given time, and you can find some plonker driving like an idiot.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's the brand itself. It means that the individual behind the wheel thinks he's better than everybody else, and that's got nothing to do with the car at the end of the day.
Yeah, there we go. I think that sums it up perfectly. All right. Guy, the I series. Is it an I series? Is it the BMW I? What? Tell us about this.
So BMW I is to BMW in terms of sustainability what BMW M is in terms of performance.
Okay.
So I is a new sub-brand. M is a sub-brand of BMW. And it launches in 2014, and it's a range of cars designed purely for sustainable motoring. So we have the i3.
All right.
Probably the world's first electric car designed purely for electromobility. So one of the big issues you have with an electric car, and many of the electric cars we have out there are basically normal cars refitted with
with a
electric
whole-
engines, or they've been designed as normal cars with electric engines. And in an electric car, you end up with something that's very different to a normal car. In a petrol car, the engine, the gearbox, they weigh a lot, and the fuel tank weighs very little. And in an electric car, the engine weighs nothing, and the fuel tank, the batteries, they weigh a lot.
Yeah.
But they really weigh a lot. So a normal retrofitted electric car is about 300 kilograms heavier than its counterpart car.
Wow.
And what BMW has done is we've changed the architecture of these cars. We have what we call a life drive architecture, and in the drive area, the chassis area, we have an aluminium chassis with the batteries mounted in the floor of the car, so that you've got this low batteries, low center of gravity,
yeah.
so that you can still create something dynamic. And on top of that, we put a carbon fiber life structure, body structure. And as you know from your F1 experience, carbon fiber is one of the world's strongest but lightest materials.
Sure.
So we can produce a car that weighs the same as a normal car, which means you need smaller batteries to get the same range, and you can still get this great performance out of it. So the i3 is really like a city car, four-seater city car that'll come onto the market in around 2014. And then on the other side of that scale, we have the i8, which for us is basically a green supercar.
Oh,
It's
right.
a mid-engine, three-cylinder, turbocharged plug-in hybrid that'll do 0 to 100 in about 4 seconds, 300 kilometers an hour, but use less than 3 liters of fuel per 100
Is
100K an
that
hour.
so?
And that's the car that you would have seen in the latest Mission Impossible
Yeah.
movie floating around. And I've seen the real car. It looks exactly like that. It hasn't
That is
changed at all.
extraordinary. But now, this, I still worry about these electric cars, hybrid cars. Hybrid, yes, I can understand. I can get my head around it. But coming with this, is this going to be a fully electric car? Is this a plug-in? Sorry, hello, go home, plug it in the garage, and charge it up?
So i3 is exactly that.
Okay.
It's a plug-in, a battery electric vehicle, basically. We do have a range extender option for that, where you'll get the option of a small engine that will recharge the battery for you to extend your range. And i8 is a plug-in hybrid, so you've got a big electric motor with big battery capacity, and then a
Yes.
small engine to go with it.
All right.
But the big thing for green cars or electric cars is nobody really knows how big they're going to get. Our predictions around the year 2020 are anywhere between 5 and 20% of the total car park will be electric
Electric
cars.
cars.
But we don't know the number. So we're trying to gear up our fleet to offer and options. Not
Okay.
either or, but and.
And.
I can have an M5 with 412 kilowatts that does 0 to 100 in 4.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Can carry my family to Cape Town if I want it, and I can have an i3 to do the 20k
Local commute.
commute to the office every day.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's fascinating. I look forward to more and more literature on that, to read more and more about it. But 2014 launched worldwide as well as here in South Africa, or for those that eyes.
So we've actually made a very bold statement. Some of our some of the other car manufacturers that produce electric cars are not making any statements about their willingness to bring these cars to market.
Okay.
We've had a Mini E test fleet running in the world for the last 5 years. They've covered about 13 million kilometers of testing.
Sure.
We've actually got 5 of them here at the moment. We're going to start a testing program later this year. And what we found out is that customers only drive their cars for about 35 k's at a time, and then they park them for 5 or 6 hours, and they drive them another 35 k's. So if you've got a charging station at work, you can use the car daily. It's never an issue for you. And if you charge at home, of course, it's never an issue for you. So we believe that infrastructure is only a hygiene factor. Public charging infrastructure is only a hygiene factor for people that might run their range to the bare minimum and then get stuck out in Pretoria when they live in Johannesburg. But we believe that we can introduce these cars in South Africa with existing infrastructure, or at least with the very small infrastructural investment, and we'll launch i3 here in 2014 in April.
Joel, that's amazing. I think it's really, really bold and brilliant. Looking forward to it. Guy, it's great to have you here on Gearz. As always, great to speak to you. I'm going to walk out with you and you're going to fire up that M5 for me so I can hear what it sounds like. But wish you well. I mean, you've just launched M5. New M5.
Well, M5
It's
was
been-
late last year.
Late last year.
We've just launched M6.
M6.
actually.
So M6 has just come out as well.
the M6
in the new
convertible.
shape.
Yeah, fantastic.
What a beautiful car.
We've got the coupe coming in October, M6 coupe, and
Okay.
then the Grand Coupe M6 comes in 2013. And I think the nice story on M6 when it early next year is that we'll bring our carbon ceramic brakes out for the first time.
Wow.
Everybody goes, "Oh, carbon ceramic brakes, they must be amazing." What nobody understands is that in real-world driving conditions, their only benefit you're getting is the weight saving. They stop just like steel brakes in the real world, but it's only on the racetrack where you get this real benefit. But still, a great technological advantage. You never have to replace your discs, which is
Yeah,
quite a cool thing.
It's also a win as well.
But expensive at the same time.
No, I know all about that. And congrats to the new X3. I got to say, wow, what in my opinion, massive step up from the original one.
Yeah, I think X3 is a bigger car than the previous X3, and its styling is a bit more conservative. It's not so polarizing, and it's just a brilliant everyday driving car. People go, "Oh, why do people drive SUVs every day?" Drive an X3 and you'll know why. It drives exactly like a car, but you've got all this practicality, all this space.
Yeah.
And once you've sat high up in an SUV, you'll understand why people drive it, because the visibility you get it's quite hard to go back to driving a sedan once you've sat a little bit higher up.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
X3s are really a fantastic seller for us. We just can't get enough of them.
Yeah.
The big test, Sasha, is always, can we as staff order them? And we can only ever not order cars when they're in high demand with customers. And we launched X3 over a year ago.
Really?
And
Jeez.
you won't find any X3s in our staff parking lot at BMW. Still huge demand from customers.
Incredible. And listen, a final thing, BMW Polo coming up soon again.
Yes.
Yeah, which is always, it's one of the big social events of the year.
Yeah, it's for 23 years we've been doing the BMW
Is it
International
that long?
Polo. It's one of my responsibilities as well. So it's the champagne set is quite a lot of fun, and that's on the 26th of August. And for the first time we're moving the venue. So for 23 years we've been at Inanda.
Yes.
And Inanda has been hugely successful for us. But for the last 3 years we've had to close the gates at Inanda at 1 o'clock and leave people waiting outside and wanting more, simply because there wasn't enough space for all the parking. And the city of Joburg last year, said to us, you can't block up the streets of Inanda for 3 hours while people wait to get in. And we've made a decision this year to move it, and we're moving it to Waterfall Polo Park here in Sunninghill. And the fantastic news is that we'll be able to take 2 or 3 times as many people as we had at Inanda last year. And last year was our best year ever at Inanda with 7,000 people. So we're really, really expecting a fantastic turnout and a great day out. 26th of August, we're playing India. Fantastic polo team. I hope we'll be able to beat them, but it's always a fantastic day.
Yeah, it's always a great event as well. Guy, great to see you again, my friend. Great to have you in the studio, and we'll definitely catch up with you again soon.
Pleasure being here. Thanks.
Gearz on bulls.co.za with Sasha Martinengo.
He's kept himself out of trouble.
Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time.